That's whenever I kind of really started to dive into apologetics. And through my study of apologetics, I was introduced to Augustine. And then through reading Augustine, I fell into Aquinas and then just fell in love with the Summa.
Wow.
We dated for 6 weeks. It was just quite obvious that this was the right move. And then I proposed. And so...
You proposed after 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You're a man after my own heart, brother.
That's why marriage is a vocation, because you're not holy enough yet. And this is the way that you get holy.
I find it really interesting that at 29 years old, you think so much about, like you just said, death and judgment. How did that come about? Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Witness to Love podcast. I'm Samuel Paul Bryant, owner and founder of Witness to Love Family Counseling Services. We got started doing the Witness to Love podcast to give people the opportunity to give witness to the good things the Lord has done for them. These people include other professional therapists, priests, religious, and lay people from different trades and different backgrounds. The goal of the podcast is to inspire people to live life more abundantly, to live life more gratefully, to live life more fruitfully, to look at God as a God of abundance and love and not a God of scarcity. If you like what you see, please subscribe to this podcast wherever you may be viewing it, and please hit the like button. God bless you, and thank you so much for supporting our mission. Today we have a very special guest, Cameron Riecker. Cameron is a Catholic husband, Catholic father, and Catholic, what do we call it? A Catholic influencer. Am I getting that right?
That is right. I think the word influencer is a little bit cringe, but it's accurate, though. It's accurate.
Awesome. So how would you define it, what you do on your podcast?
What do I do on my podcast? My goal is to help young men to know and defend and live the faith better. Awesome. So that's what I do. So I'll do some apologetics videos, and then I do a lot of content specifically to help young men be the saints, hopefully, that God is calling them to be.
Praise God. What's the name of your podcast? And give a little
It's very
plug for it.
Very creative. It's very creative. My YouTube channel is called Cameron Riecker. So ironically, it shares the same name as me. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, you never would
have
have
thought
right?
a little bit about that.
I put so much effort into it. No. But yeah, it's just Cameron Riecker and Cameron the Catholic on Instagram, and yeah.
Cameron the Catholic.
Cameron the Catholic. I don't know why I did that.
Yeah.
That was what I typed in that day because that's what I felt like, and it stuck. So
I think a lot of us young, well, I'm not young anymore. When I was a younger Catholic man on fire for the Lord, I wanted to be defined that way. Sam the Catholic.
Yeah.
I wanted my number one definition to be I am Catholic. Yeah. So I think there's something very powerful about that. Cameron the Catholic, right? It's like you have a sword and a shield. Cameron the Catholic, ready to go to war.
That's right.
So that's
Right.
beautiful. Good. So like I was sharing a little bit earlier, a focus of our show being dedicated to the divine mercy is to give people an opportunity to share their lives but in particular to give witness to the good things the Lord has done for them. And the way we usually start is you kind of fill us in, where are you today? Who's Cameron today?
I am a husband and a father. I have 2 kids and 1 due in December.
Oh, praise
So number
God.
3 is on the way.
Wow.
So
And how old are you again?
29.
Wow.
I'm 29.
Producing. Be fruitful and multiply.
We're taking it literally. But yeah, I have wife and 2 kids. That's mainly who I am, as husband and father. And then
Absolutely.
secondarily after that, I run this YouTube channel and try to bring
Yes.
as many souls to the Lord as possible. I've just been gifted an incredible amount in my life, and I feel obligated to make a good return on the investment that the Lord has put into me with
Wow. Yes.
the talents, the gifts, the time, the opportunity, all these
Yes.
things the Lord himself has given to me. I feel very, very heavily the responsibility of making some sort of a return to the Lord,
Yes.
One of the scariest Bible passages that I'm aware of is the parable of the pounds in Luke's gospel.
The
pounds, not the talents. It's related to the parable of the talents.
Yes.
But the parable of the pounds in Luke's gospel. It's very similar to the one with the talents, if you're familiar with that. Basically, people are given a gift, some sort of of monetary incentive, and then the master goes away, and then the master comes back. And in Luke's gospel, the man who is condemned is not condemned for losing the money, not condemned for stealing the money. He's condemned for one thing and one thing only, and that is failing to do anything with the gifts that he's been given.
Wow.
You look at the parable, well, perhaps it's not a parable, but the story in the scriptures of Lazarus and the rich man, who's traditionally called Dives, which just means rich in Latin. And the rich man, Dives, is condemned in that parable, once again, for one thing and one thing only, and that's failing to make a return, failing to use the gifts that he's been given to serve the poor, to serve those in need. And so reflecting on those passages is something that really motivates me. I actually have an incredibly phlegmatic temperament.
Yes. Describe phlegmatic for all of us who may not understand.
Phlegmatic temperament basically means that my natural default setting is to tend towards rest. It's to tend towards sort of inactivity. And so phlegmatics have some strengths. I don't lose my cool. I don't have a temper, right? You'll never insult me. I've had many people online try, but I don't take it personal. I don't hold grudges. So I have some strong suits with that, with my phlegmatic temperament. But on the flip side of that, I need that motivation. I don't naturally want to get up and do a perfect job. I tend towards cutting corners and things like that. Those are just tendencies. It's not a definition of what a phlegmatic temperament is, but those are some of the strengths and weaknesses. And so for me, reflecting on the fact that I will have to give an account for how I've spent all of my time is something that helps motivate me, helps me to overcome some of the defects in my personality. And then secondarily, reflecting constantly on death and judgment, which goes into that parable of the pounds, right? The master comes back, and that's judgment day. That's coming up for all of us.
I find it really interesting that at 29 years old, you think so much about, like you just said, death and judgment. How did that come about?
It's a necessary consequence, I think, whenever you're trying to know thyself and understand what your strengths and weaknesses are. If somebody has a phlegmatic temperament like me, one of the only things that really does motivate me is thinking about just reflecting upon laying on my deathbed and who's going to be around me. Will my wife be there? Will she be passed away already? My kids, will I be holding their hand? What will they say about me after I pass? What are they going to say about me at my eulogy? Because they're all going to say the same thing, right? They're going to say my father was a good man, and my entire life is dedicated to not making them liars. That's what I want. And so, it's just a consequence of knowing my own weaknesses and then finding a remedy that I can apply to those weaknesses in order to overcome them. And frequent meditation on death is very powerful for that. Alphonsus Liguori has an entire book called, I think it's called Reflections on the Eternal Axioms. Yes. But that book is phenomenal for people who maybe are struggling to get out of sin and don't feel that sense of urgency. Alphonsus Liguori he doesn't start off the book with this, but one of the things he says is that your guardian angel is your advocate throughout all this life. Your guardian angel is on your side, trying to get you as many graces as possible, trying to cover up your faults, trying to take your good virtues and to take them to the Lord as a mediator. And then he says, at the day of judgment, those who are condemned, after their condemnation, their guardian angel feels no sorrow for them and returns immediately to rejoicing in heaven at the just condemnation of the soul, right? Wow. And so he says a lot of things like that. And Alphonsus Liguori, he's doctor heavy. Of the church. He's a heavy hitter. Oh, he's not going to mess around.
No. I got turned on to him a number of years ago, and he's a heavy hitter. Going back to this idea of giving to the Lord what he's due, right? Mm-hmm. That's something that really motivates you. I know for me, similarly, the parable of the talents is my scariest one, right? The one who buries his treasure, and I don't know if he's condemned, but he's definitely, his goods are taken away from him. Yeah. Right? I look at that, it gives me shivers, right? So that is something that motivates me, similar to what I think you're talking about. Mm-hmm. I just want to give a proper return to the Lord. And I want to do it with like a really grateful heart, because the Lord has done some really profound things in my life. And the way I describe it is gift and gratitude. Yeah. How have we responded with gratitude to the gifts that the Lord has given us, right? And I think that's the calling, right? He pours into us his grace, his love, salvation itself, right, through his Son, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. What are we doing with it? Yeah. Right? So let's backtrack a little bit. So today, your husband. Tell us a little bit about how you met your wife and how you guys got to this point.
Yeah, my wife and I met through my coworker and her mutual friend. We just met at a party, and it was a pretty normal meeting, except for the fact that whenever we first met, our first encounter didn't go exactly as planned. This was right before COVID, so this was maybe January 2020. This was January 2020, and we met at this party, and she was there, and she brought one of her friends who was a Protestant.
Yes.
And so in my mind, I thought that Jessica was a Protestant because I just kind of assumed, I just lumped them together. So I found out one was a Protestant. I assumed the other one was. And then Jessica is a very extroverted person, life of the party. She's a sanguine.
Yes.
And so that's a little bit about her. But she was drinking lemon water. It was literally just like lemon water and some stevia to sweeten it. And somebody had made a joke that it was vodka. Like just like straight lemonade vodka,
yes,
something like that. And so I had a very brief encounter with her. You know, she's very extroverted, very friendly. And so I left thinking that she was drinking a little bit too much, which she wasn't drinking at all, and that she was a Protestant. So I had some pretty serious misgivings about her from the beginning.
That was the first day you met her.
Yeah, it was the first day I met her. And, you know, I was at a point in my faith where I wasn't really interested in dating a Protestant at that point. I was very, very aware. I'd already been in seminary and all these things. Okay. And so I was very aware that the purpose of a Catholic family is to raise Catholic children, and that's best accomplished with a Catholic wife. So, yeah, I left that party thinking she was very charming and sweet, but that was about it. Yes. And then a few months later, after COVID and after things had kind of normalized, at least to some extent, I ran into her again in August, and we dated for 6 weeks. I mean, as soon as we got together, we dated for 6 weeks. It was just quite obvious that this was the right move, and then I proposed, and so...
You proposed after 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Wow, you're a man after my own heart, buddy. That's beautiful.
When you know, you know.
Yeah. Advice to all you young men out there, don't waste time, right? Get busy. When the Lord has revealed the one, right, take him up on it. Praise God.
Yeah, because discernment does not mean sit on your thumbs and kind of pray about it for 6 years. Discernment means you're actively taking steps. Discern, it literally means to cut off. So it's an active process where you're cutting off every other option except for the one that you end up deciding, right?
Yes,
so discernment means action. It does not mean inactivity in some sort of prayer. It means you pray, and then if you're discerning religious life, you go to some sort of monastery. You talk to people. You send an email to the vocations direct. Like, you have to be doing something to discern. Exactly. You can't just sit on your thumbs.
The way I used to describe it when we used to give these talks on chastity, I would tell the kids, God can't direct a parked car. You got to get out on the road and be moving, and God can give you direction. Yeah. And then something I was reading in the book of Samuel, it's interesting the way the Lord works. He tells Samuel at one point when he's about to not ordain but bless David, the Lord tells him, "Go here, do this and that, and when you get there, I'll tell you what to do." And I think that's an interesting way of relating to the Lord. He doesn't give us all the details of what we're going to do tomorrow or next week, but he'll give you something very proximate. Do X, and then after you do X, I'll tell you what to do. Have you experienced anything like that in your life?
Yeah. You know, it's like you're saying God can't drive a parked car. It's like Jesus will take the wheel, but you're still on the gas pedal.
Yes, good point. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really just a process of being prayerful while you're engaged in these activities, because there's two pitfalls that you can fall into. One is a sort of excessive desire for some sort of a sign where you're not reading the room appropriately. God ordinarily communicates his will to us through natural means.
Yes.
Right? Ordinarily, that's the case. Have you been accepted to this good Catholic college? Maybe that's your sign that God wants you to go to that good Catholic college. Mm-hmm. It's very unlikely he's going to send Gabriel down to appear before you and tell you, hail you, you're going to the... No, that's not the way it works. God ordinarily speaks to us through ordinary means. So the first thing is an excessive desire for some sort of explicit revelation of God's will. Yes. And that's what people want. And so they'll sit and they'll pray and they'll kind of think and they'll pray and they don't actually do anything. That's that's one side. The other side is where you are too active and not reflective enough, where you're trying to accomplish too much. And I see this sometimes with people in ministry, and it's a pitfall that you have to watch out for, is you're doing good work and you're doing good work for the Lord. and then your entire identity becomes your output, right?
Yes,
And it's
yes.
like if you're not bearing fruit and growing in your own relationship with your Lord first and foremost, then it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, for you to actually do something meaningful on the outside. So it's sort
Yes.
of excessive desire to produce, to do, to make, and not enough time and just being in the presence with the Lord and being recollected. So
Yeah.
those are the two pitfalls that you can fall into with discernment, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can fall into them different ways at different points in your life. You could be on one side or the other, which is, I want to backtrack a little bit again. You said when you were in the seminary, or your discerning seminary.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Give us a little idea of the development of your own faith and the different ways you've seen the Lord working in your life.
Yeah, so whenever I was up until college, I really wasn't practicing the faith very much at all.
Up until college.
Up until college, yeah.
Yes.
So I was going to mass every Sunday. I would go to religious education classes. I knew the stuff generally a little bit, probably about as well as everybody else sitting in the pews did,
Yes.
but not really. I wasn't living according to the truths of the Catholic faith at all. And then in college, I started to date a Protestant woman, and she was a Baptist. Her dad was music pastor, might have been his title, something like that. He did the music and did some preaching at this Baptist church that she was at. And so I was dating her, and we were getting fairly serious, and so we started to discuss what the future was going to look like, and that's whenever she started to share what she believed about her faith a little bit more.
Yes.
And that's whenever I kind of really started to dive into apologetics. And through my study of apologetics, I was introduced to Augustine, and then through reading Augustine, I fell into Aquinas, and then just fell in love with the Summa.
Wow.
And so,
What attracted you in Augustine's work? Was there something in particular that stood out for you?
well, I think I started by I read the whole Bible, and then I read the Catechism, and Augustine is the most quoted father in the Catechism, I believe.
Wow.
And so
okay.
just
I
through,
didn't know that.
he's actually quoted more than St. Thomas, which I find fascinating.
Yes.
Augustine writes more beautifully. St. Thomas writes with more clarity and succinctness, right? If you're going to quote somebody to explain the faith, I think Thomas is generally the guy to go to. But regardless, the 1984 Catechism that JP2 put out
Yes.
quotes Augustine more than any other father. And so through reading the Catechism, I'm like, oh, this Augustine guy, he seems pretty smart. It seems like he knows what he's saying, right? And then you read the Confessions, and if God has any desire for you to convert to his holy Catholic faith, then reading the Confessions is going to be the catalyst. You
Yeah.
can't read that book and not be moved if your heart is at all open.
Yeah. My experience with that, because I hadn't read the whole Confessions, but the part, the Hound of Heaven, before I met my wife, I was living particularly not healthily away from the faith. And I remember the feeling, the experience of being pursued by the Lord, right? Through the darkness, right? He went into the darkness with me. And I have these recollections. I lived in this studio apartment, so there's no bedroom. My couch was right there, was my bed right there. And I would wake up in the morning and I would imagine Jesus sitting there in my apartment, drinking a cup of coffee, always asking me, Sammy, are you about ready? You about ready to come back? And finally, after a wild experience, he asked me that question. I thought I was dying, actually. And I was like, yes, Lord. And it was phenomenal to me how quickly he changed my heart, my life, and turned my life around to this rather paganish, very disrespectful. I was a bouncer at a nightclub and didn't have a good reputation there doing that either. But after I made the turn to the Lord, it was amazing to me how quickly he even changed my reputation amongst my coworkers. I became the Catholic guy that you don't tell dirty jokes around or do anything, So it's amazing to see the power of the Lord, right? Practically changing things in one's life, right? So it's incredible. I want to roll back again. 2 children. What was it like for you becoming a father?
It was, I think it's one of those things where it doesn't really sink in at the moment. It takes some time. I'll tell you a story of when my first was born. So we went to a birthing center. So
Yes.
it's kind of,
Mm-hmm.
me and all of my siblings were born at home. So we were
Born
all
at
home
home.
births. So
Wow.
that's what I was used to. And then
Yes.
Jess, my wife, and all of her siblings were born in the hospital. So that was kind of more what she was comfortable, or not comfortable with, but that was what she was accustomed to.
Yes.
So this birthing center is a nice middle ground. It's a more natural alternative. There's a lot more liberties for the women giving birth there. So that's the direction we went. But we're at this birthing center, and Celine, who's my oldest daughter, her labor from start to finish was 3 hours. It was incredibly quick, especially for a first, which
Yes.
matches Celine's personality now perfectly. She's just ready to get out and go all the time.
Awesome.
Like I'm pretty ambitious. I'm pretty outgoing. My wife is as well, and we have trouble keeping up with our 2-year-old.
Wow.
Man, she's
Wow.
she's something else. But regardless, we're there, and we're in the birthing center, and yeah, Celine is coming. Right, she's coming. So baby's birthed, everything is good. And Jessica, because the labor was so fast, you get these crazy endorphins, hormone. I don't even know what's going on with women giving birth, but there's some sort of chemical cocktail going on that's out of this world. And since the labor was so quick for Jessica, she's sitting there holding this brand new baby. And this is like 4 a.m. I haven't slept. Like, I got a headache. I'm tired.
Yes.
She hasn't slept either, obviously. And she's just laying there holding this baby at like 4 a.m, wide awake. And she looks at me and she's like, I could have another one right now.
Oh,
like,
my gosh.
You're nuts. Nobody has
Wow.
ever said that.
I've
Nobody.
yeah.
Oh, man.
That's amazing.
But I think she's got so that, I don't know, baby high, whatever it is. But she didn't have to go through a long labor, so she had all this leftover gusto, I guess.
Absolutely. That's amazing.
So we're sitting there, and we got this newborn baby. And, yeah, I don't know. Everybody kind of, I think, expects to have, like, this moment where you're just super bonded to the child. And it's not that I didn't have that, but it felt more like, for me, a gradual kind of unfolding of the reality that I had a daughter and that this was somebody who was dependent upon me, and this was somebody that I was going to have to be willing to sacrifice for the rest of my life. And so, yeah, I don't remember a specific moment, but it just gradually over the months and now the couple years has been a deepening of that relationship with my daughter. And, my son is 13, almost 14 months now.
Yes.
And so it's kind of a similar thing then. I also think that for dads, the relationship, especially if the baby's breastfeeding, really begins kind of after the baby's weaned. And then mommy's not always the go-to for everything, but it's like daddy actually matters now. And there's some things daddy can do that mommy can't do. And then I think that's really cool to see that part of the relationship start to develop too.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that in my own life and in the life of a lot of my clients. Dads will seem to be on the periphery in the beginning. Like, wonder, what do I do here? I can't feed them, right? They don't seem to want to be around me. What am I supposed to do? And it takes time for the man, typically, I know for me, to become more attached. Yeah. I know, well, how many siblings did you grow up with?
I am one of 6 kids.
And where are you in that?
Second oldest.
And what was the split?
There are 4 boys, 2 girls.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, 7 of our 8 children were born at home.
Nice.
Right? So, and this was, Joe was born in November of 93. So it was kind of a while ago. The kind of home birthing movement was ramping up. How did your parents get turned on to the whole home birthing idea?
My parents are both chiropractors, so they're a little crunchy and they're a little bit ahead of the curve with that kind of thing. I think it's trending now. I think the home birth thing, the facility birth, is becoming much more popular. It was not popular when my parents did it.
Yeah, when we did it, people thought we were crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
exactly. You're just ahead of the curve. That's all it is.
Yeah. It was pretty wild. So 6 weeks to engagement, right? It doesn't sound like the personality type, the temperament type you kind of described, kind of waiting around. Fatherhood has been a life-changing, a life-altering. How would you describe it? How has it impacted you again?
Yeah, it's definitely been life-altering. I think if somebody's not married, they probably think they're pretty virtuous, and then they get married, and then they're like, okay, yeah, this is nice. And then they have a kid, and then it's like, okay, I'm actually very impatient and selfish. And I didn't even realize this, right?
Yes.
But, especially with 2 kids. With 1 kid, you can get a break, and, you have 2 versus 1. But then you have 2 kids, And the only way you're getting a break is if you can figure out somehow to get them kind of both down at the same time for a nap, which is a trick we haven't really figured out yet. And so you just constantly have another human being who's dependent upon you for everything. And it's infuriating sometimes.
Yes.
Anybody who's been a dad and has actually been present and has tried, and same for a mom, motherhood's worse in a lot of ways, or at least more challenging in a lot of ways, I should say.
Absolutely.
Your patience is tested chronically. Yep. And that's why marriage is a vocation, because you're not holy enough yet, and this is the way that you get holy, right?
Exactly.
through no changing diapers, through waking up at 2 a.m. to hold a baby who's crying for no discernible reason, like all these things, all these little sacrifices. It's beautiful and it's life-changing, and it is the ordinary means of sanctification for most people is the married state.
Praise God. I love the way you describe that. It's really succinct and really to the point and just right on target. It's beautiful. So before the podcast, right, what did you do before that?
So I was teaching high school theology mostly, and then a physics class. Yeah.
Yes. How many years were you teaching?
4.5. 4.5. So that's one of the reasons I think that, praise be to God, my podcast has had some success, is because I'd already kind of harnessed teaching ability.
Yes.
Most people, whenever they're explaining something, no detriment to them and no detriment to their audience, but they vastly overestimate the comprehension skills of the people listening and how much attention those people are actually giving a lot of the time.
Exactly.
You learn this with high school students. You try to be as engaging as possible, and then you explain things in a way that 16, 15, 14, I had 12-year-olds was my youngest, I think. You try to explain it in the way that they can understand, and then that's how you actually master the material yourself, and that's how you're able to increase comprehension in your students. The physicist Richard Feynman said, if you can't explain something to a 10-year-old, you don't understand it. And I think that that's a really true thing, and so that's one of the things I try to do is, when I'm doing apologetics or when I'm teaching some aspect of virtue, I'll go through and I'm not going to dumb it down.
Yes.
I'm going to crystallize, I'm going to summarize, and I'm going to try to give you the most potent amount of information, most powerful amount of information I can in a small dosage. So I'm not wasting your time. You're not wasting your time, and you're getting something that's incredibly valuable and incredibly comprehensible, because that's what actually changes lives, right? You read somebody like Augustine, and you got to read him slowly, right? You got to go back and be like, okay, yeah, I don't know what that line meant. And you read it again, you're like, okay, let's keep going. Right?
Exactly.
You got to slow down. Modern people have such a fast attention span where it's really a skill to learn to crystallize that information in such a way that it can actually be digested, because people don't read anymore, unfortunately, for better or for worse. It's just the way it is. Yeah.
They just see little clips on TikTok.
Little 60-second little scroll things. Yeah. It's so stupid.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's one of those difficult things. So you would say your podcast is a teaching podcast?
I don't really know what I would say. I think that St. Augustine in his work on the teacher says anyone who speaks teaches. And then his son, who is the interlocutor in this little book that he wrote, says, what about somebody that asks a question? And St. Augustine says, whoever asks a question is teaching the other person what they would like to know.
Wow.
And so the most valuable skill I think that people can learn today is communication, because communication is a skill that will never go out of style. Yes. Information is not just cheap, it's free. There's too much information right now. Yeah. So finding a way to take that information and then distill it and percolate it appropriately is the most valuable skill anybody can learn right now, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So how would you describe how you personally encounter the Lord? What is the most efficacious way in which you encounter the Lord?
Yeah, I think that Our Lady of Fatima told Sister Lucia that in these last times there's been a special efficacy attached to the rosary, such that no problem, be it personal or spiritual, cannot be resolved by praying the rosary, right? Wow. That's a paraphrase. It's close to what Our Lady said. But at these last times, you see Padre Pio calling the rosary the weapon for our times. Mm-hmm. You see Pope Leo XIII did a tremendous amount to increase devotion to the rosary, especially after he had the vision of Satan trying to destroy the church. You see every single saint and every single pope since the time of Leo XIII echoing the same thing. Yes. Pray the rosary, pray the rosary, pray the rosary. The rosary is the most indulgenced prayer of all time for the church, which means what? Mother Church in her wisdom is indicating the way that she would like her children to return to her, to come to her, and that's through the recitation of the rosary.
Wow.
So the anchor for my own personal spiritual life is certainly the rosary, and I think that, I think that's another reason that I've had any sort of success online is because Our Lady, one of the promises of the rosary is Our Lady said, anyone who spreads devotion to the rosary will be aided by me in all of their necessities.
Yes.
And so I've made it a major point, an intentional point with my platform that God has given me to try to spread devotion to the rosary as much as I can.
Yes.
And, it's not like, how does the Lord communicate with me? Recently, basically not at all. In a certain sense, you pray and you feel like nobody's listening, and that's just a common experience for people, right? If you're expecting it and you know what it is, then it's very tolerable. It's obviously not fun. But you pray sometimes and you do your best and you get done and nothing happens. And that's exactly what God wants sometimes.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Definitely a dry spell in that regard, but all good. God knows what he's doing with me. Praise God. Yeah.
Yes. So you have found your way closer to the Lord through his mother.
Absolutely.
Yes, in the recitation of the rosary.
Yeah.
Wow, that's real powerful. How would you describe your relationship with the Eucharist?
With the Eucharist, I think it's impossible to have a relationship with Mary and not have a relationship with the Eucharist, right? The mother of the head is the mother of the members, and the head is present to us primarily now, Jesus Christ in the flesh in the Eucharist. And so, Mary brings about that union in a mysterious way, I would say. As far as I try to go to daily mass. That's one awesome. Of the things that I do.
With 2 kids and a baby on the way, that's a big deal.
Oh, man, it's hard. It is definitely hard. Sometimes I make it once a week or twice a week. I try to do better than that, but sometimes it's like that's what we got right now.
Gotcha. So was there a particular, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around. That's my ADHD mind. I'm going to jump around. What was the inspiration or instigation to create your podcast?
So for me, I had the teaching skills. I knew that I was able to teach and to communicate effectively. And I was at a high school, Catholic high school here in Arizona. And the salary cap for a teacher is quite hard in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And my wife and I always intended, it was our intention right from the beginning, to have a large family. And so just looking at the numbers, looking at how much it costs to live here in Phoenix, and then looking at presumably what my salary cap was going to be, and realizing, well, I'm going to have to do something over the summer. I'm going to have to get a side job. I was to drive Uber or something like that. Figure out a way to make a little bit extra money if I want to keep my wife at home to raise my kids, which once again was our intention from the beginning. And so I looked at all this and I was like, well, I'm going to be spending this much time away from my kids, away from my wife with somebody else's kids. If I'm going to be spending this much time working, I might as well figure out a way to leverage my work so that I at least have an opportunity to make a little bit more money, because kids ain't cheap, birthing centers ain't cheap,
absolutely,
diapers aren't cheap. It's all costs money, and that's part of the vocation of fatherhood, right? The curse of Adam is to work, to labor, to be able to provide for your wife and children. So it was just a process of doing some math and then recognizing, if I want to be able to provide a place where my wife and my children can live and live comfortably, and live in an environment where they have an opportunity to practice the virtues and not to be worried about, money. Not that worrying about money is a bad thing, right? But have some security, and to be able to, I'd love to take my wife and kids on pilgrimage trips, things like that. And also with the job that I'm doing now, I have a tremendous amount of flexibility, so I can just take an hour off in the afternoon and give my wife a nap and things like that. And so it's just really a consideration of trying to figure out how I could use my gifts, the talents that I have, to be able to provide for my wife and children in the best way that I can as a father and as a husband. So the primary reason I was doing it was ministry in a way, because my gifts just naturally lend themselves to being ministerial in that way. And that's what I was doing as a teacher, teaching kids the faith and helping them to live the faith, hopefully. So I'm doing the same thing now, right? Just a slightly different target audience, and the medium is different. Instead of doing it in person, I'm doing it via my iPhone camera.
It sounds consistent with what you're saying. The Lord speaks to us through very, very practical ways. Right? You had a financial need. You're looking for different ways to support your family, you're looking inside at your own talents, like, hey, I think I can do this.
Yeah.
Right? And then you took the leap and started, I think you said in March of somewhere around
ish. There? Yeah. This is kind of funny. I've been thinking about making a video about this, but I decided to quit my job on St. Joseph's Day, which was 2024, St. Joseph's Day 2024. And I had 89 subscribers on YouTube at that time.
Oh
so
my gosh.
basically none.
Yes.
Less than 100. So yeah, I actually, looking back, I was like, oh my gosh, was I nuts? What was I on? What was going on? But that was the decision that I made. I just figured, I think I have these talents. I think that this is something that I could do. I think this is something that the Lord would be pleased by. And so I took the leap of faith and quit my job on March 19th. When I say quit my job, I was teaching, so I finished the school year.
Yes.
But I did not submit I said I was not intending to return next year, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what I mean by quit my job. And so, yeah, that's kind of how that started.
Yes.
And yeah, it's been good. It's been fruitful. It's been tough. My wife is luckily just as crazy as I am. So I told her, it's like, I think I should quit my job. She was like, great, do it.
Wow.
And
that's
so
amazing.
I did. And it was, we had several months there where we weren't making any money, basically. And the reason that we were able to get by is because I crashed my car and we took the insurance money and used that to pay the mortgage for a few months.
Yes.
So that was kind of because, if anybody's starting a YouTube channel, you know that it's not a profitable endeavor until you hit a certain critical mass.
Yes.
And that critical mass for most people takes maybe a year to get there. I was able to do it in a few months, right?
Wow.
So it was really kind of an abbreviated process for me.
Yes.
But that was just because that was all I was doing, and it was a matter of necessity.
Yes.
The Lord just put the right people at the right place at the right time too, and I was able to get some really good advice. But yeah, that's a little bit about how I got started.
That's
and
awesome.
One of the reasons I
love
grew so
the
quickly.
story, man. It's a beautiful story because it puts you in the company of the saints and the apostles. I mean, I can imagine the apostles waking up in the morning thinking, what am I doing here? We're living on the road, right? We don't know what's going on. We're being persecuted. I mean, that's a big deal, And in your own way, you went through the same thing and was able to persevere, which I think is really powerful part of your story. When you think about your development as a Christian man, are there any particular stories that stand out for you that give witness, once again, to the good things the Lord has done for you? Because it's clear in what you've been saying so far, the Lord has really blessed you in a lot of ways. Is there any particular thing you would like to share with the crowd before we sign out?
Yeah. One thing that stands out to me is something that was pivotal in a lot of ways in my own faith journey is the death of my grandma. So whenever I was in college, this was when I was starting to come into the faith, kind of discerning seminary. I'd broken up with that girlfriend. And this was 2017 in July, and my grandma was passing away. And we were kind of expecting her to pass away here in the next few days. So she had a doctor's appointment in the town near the little village that I live in. I don't live anywhere. It's cornfields everywhere. It's a little village in southern Indiana. So I was taking my grandma into town to go and see the doctor. And I had to literally take this woman who I had revered my entire life and pick her up, put her in a wheelchair, pick her up, help her get into the car, and then pick her up like a child again out of the car whenever we got there, put her in the wheelchair and take her in. And we're in this doctor's waiting room, and my grandma is leaned over in her chair like this. It's difficult for her even to hold her head up at this time because she's just in a tremendous amount of pain. If she wants to talk, my aunt goes right next to my grandma and gets right next to her, puts her ear right next to her lips so that she can speak into her ear because all she could manage to do was whisper at this point.
Yes. And
so while we're there in the waiting room, my grandma would occasionally look up at me and give me a soft smile.
Yes.
And so just the composure, the presence of my grandma at that moment, knowing that she was in what seemed to be her last hours at that point, and she still had the composure, the presence of mind to consider me and to think about me and to smile at me at that point was something that stuck with me throughout the years.
Yes.
So we go to the doctor's appointment, and it's they say, yeah, that's basically it. You can take her home, and that's going to be the end.
Yes.
And so we take her home, and everybody, all of her grandkids, she's got, I don't even know the number, 60-something grandkids.
Oh, my
It's
gosh.
a lot of grandkids.
Yes.
But basically everyone is able to be there in the house throughout the day. And day starts off kind of somber, and, people are lamenting, et cetera, et cetera. But then as the day progresses, the kids, they get the toys out, start playing. My grandma's in her bedroom. It's quite obvious that you can hear little kids playing with toys in the front room. And it turns into an almost joyous occasion in a certain sense. And then she ends up passing away at about 3 p.m. in the afternoon, while me and a bunch of my other family members are praying a Divine Mercy chaplet around her.
Wow.
So it was really a beautiful death, and it's not something that I look back at as a sorrowful occasion in a certain sense. Of course, death is sorrowful, right? Jesus wept at the death of Lazarus, even though he knew what he was going to do. But it's something it's a sweet kind of sorrow to reminisce about.
Absolutely.
And so that was a wonderful thing too. And then after the death of my grandma, just through her witness, through her devotion to Our Lady of Fatima, which she had a tremendous devotion to, I think a lot of my family, myself included, started to come back to the faith, started to take it more seriously. And so
after your grandma passed.
after the passing of my grandma.
Wow.
Yeah.
The Lord works, man.
Those grandmas save more souls than we know.
I bet. That's so wonderful. And it seems to shine light on this idea of why you, at a young age, think about death and dying and what that means.
Yeah.
You had this experience with your grandma where you experienced the whole process.
Yeah.
Right? And seemingly the fruitfulness of her life, the fruitfulness of the 60-something grandkids, but the fruitfulness of her spiritual life and how it impacted you and the rest of your family.
Yeah.
So you grew up in a kind of around your cousins?
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, we're a very close family. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So your parents were chiropractors?
Yeah, still are. Yeah.
In southern Indiana,
That's
in
right.
this very rural area?
Yeah.
Right? Do you have any particular stories? I love hearing stories. Pre-18 that are significant to getting to know you?
Pre-18. I don't know if I have a specific story from pre-18. I was always an athlete, so always on the road, playing baseball, playing basketball, AAU stuff. So I did a lot of that kind of thing.
Okay.
I don't know if I have a specific story in mind, though. But
No problem.
yeah.
Right? Just want to get an idea of the household you grew up in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
'Cause I think it's significant.
It
But
is,
anyway.
yeah. No, it's funny. My wife is really, really good at remembering particular events and who said what and the order of events. My
Yes.
memory doesn't work like that. I can remember a quote from St. Thomas Aquinas or from the scriptures like it's nothing.
Yes.
But you try to ask me, what did you have for breakfast 2 days ago? I was like, I don't know. I don't remember what I had for breakfast today, right? So my memory works in a very different way. I will say that growing up, my dad grew up sort of Protestant. I wouldn't say he grew up in any kind of faith tradition that was meaningful and impactful. I think he went to church on occasion, but that was about it for him. And so whenever he got married to my mom, he made the promise that he was going to go to church at least on Sundays, and he did convert to the Catholic faith, although I don't know how this happened, but he says he never went to confession prior to, because he was baptized Episcopalian, I believe. And he said he never went to confession before entering into the church and being confirmed. I don't know how that happens. I don't know how a priest drops the ball like that. Maybe it wasn't the priest's fault. Maybe there was a paperwork. I don't know.
Yes.
But I don't know how that happens.
Yes.
So anyway, he enters into the church and goes to Mass on Sundays. But I don't think he would say that he was really practicing the faith at all at that time, right? Mm-hmm. And so that is something, now thanks be to God, much more involved in the church and has a real faith life. Thanks be to God for that. It was a long time coming.
Yes.
But regardless, that is something that I think is important, because whenever I look at my childhood, one of the things, this isn't a positive memory, this is maybe a negative memory in a certain sense, insofar as this isn't something that happened, this is something that failed to happen.
Yes.
But I can't think of, in my childhood, I really can't think of one person who was between, let's say, 5 and 15 years older than me in my community that was really practicing their faith very, very intentionally. I can think of maybe one, but I didn't know him very well. I wasn't close with him at all.
Yes.
So I didn't have that example of maybe an older brother type of figure
Yes.
to kind of guide me in the right. I did not have it at all.
Wow.
And so that's one of the reasons I think I liked teaching, and I like what I'm doing now.
Yes.
Is the majority of my audience is young men. And so I feel like in some way, even if I don't know you in person,
Yeah.
I get to be that kind of
Model.
one step ahead of you. Like, I'm not a priest. I'm not in my 60s. I'm not,
Yes.
a mystic. I'm not I'm not a doctor of the church. I'm just a guy who's maybe one step ahead of some guy who's
Yeah.
22 right now and coming back into the faith and want to know what it looks like to try to live a good Catholic
Absolutely.
life. Yeah.
Once again, the way I see that story is still God working, right?
Mhm.
You lack something growing up that put an inspiration in your heart to want to be that role model for other people in some way, shape, or form.
Amen.
And
Yeah.
this tool, the podcast, allows you to do that in some way, shape, or form. And as a teacher, you are able to do that. And I think it is desperately needed
Yeah.
for young men in particular to have some type of a model that's not their own father even or own brothers, right? To see the Catholic in a bigger light, and it can be lived, right? I mean, I think a lot of people, living the Catholic life is difficult,
Yeah.
right? And young people want to know, is it worthwhile, right? Is it worth it to make these sacrifices
Yeah.
to live the faith? And I know for me, the faith is everything. Every good thing I have is from the Lord, undeniably, right? I cannot say in any way, shape, or form, there's one good thing I have in my life that I earned, right? Everything is a gift. Cameron, thank you so much for being on our show. I'm inspired. I hope maybe down the road we can connect again and see where your life is, see how your podcast is doing, see how you're touching the world.
I would love that. I would love that.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. God bless you.
God bless.